And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Valley of the Judged. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and with me is my good brother here in the temple, one half of the Adventures of the Monk and the Monarch, good brother Monarch.
And you can check out our episode talking about Obari, currently up on my channel.
Obari
after you finish with us. After you finish listening to us here, though.
Obari posing is optional.
You should probably Obari pose, though.
Yeah. Yes, I know it's supposed to be called Brave Perspective, but as I said during that episode, nobody's calling it that.
I mean, somebody is, but we don't care about them.
It's technically called that on Know Your Meme, but that's kind of like how Titanic is technically a legend. Sometimes you can be technically correct, and it's not the best kind of correct. But we are here to continue our look through Hellas. We did a bunch of skimming the first time because it was a lot of fluff. We're not going to be doing as much skimming this time around because now we're starting to get into the shit. And it starts with the hero's journey, essentially character creation. And we're going to be getting into that, especially the races and the life paths. And I know some are going life paths. What, Traveler? Not far off, but you're not going to die during character creation. Unless you're really, 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 really stupid, or the Dice Gods just hate you. Which is kind of redundant because the Dice Gods hate everybody. Which is why they're a model of equality. But as mentioned, we open up with the hero's journey, starting with character creation. And I'll take this. Creating a hero in Hellas is a bit different than most games using the Omni system. In keeping with the feel of Hellenic heroic fantasy that Hellas is trying to emulate, the system has been tweaked to give the game and the characters more of a Greek-inspired feel. Hellenic heroes all have at least one thing in common. They are in some way touched by the gods. This touch may be favoritism by the gods, or in some cases even relations to them. Whatever the case may be, the characters are a step above normal everyday folk, and their backgrounds and histories betray that, setting them apart from the rest of the Hellenes. First-time character creation may take quite some time as the players as a group are collectively creating a history and shared narrative. Be prepared to spend an hour per player in creating the heroes. I end up spending an hour per player just by default because I tend to go very hands-on with how I handle character creation.
Yeah. I will say, I really like the inclusion of this. I don't think we've covered a game yet that immediately sets you up to expect how long it's going to take if you're coming into this blind.
Mm-hmm.
I like it's given us this expectation right out of the gate.
Yeah. Especially since there are some games that are more front-loaded than others, where the actual die rolling is not that complex, but the character creation, the first part that you're going to be seeing, is. I'd say GURPS is a common example of this. Once you actually get down to playing your characters, GURPS isn't that crunchy. I know what I said. It's just that you have to get over that big old hurdle. It's kind of like that whole thing on TV tropes. Everybody remembers the stripper.
Yeah.
So when people think of GURPS, they're going to think about the crazy ass character creation. But I'll let you tackle hero creation.
So we start with the first bits on hero creation. It's just a quick list of your bullet points, like determine race, roll on your life path, determine profession, roll on calling paths, spend your customization points, determine age and name, each one of which we'll start to get into as we go through. Mm-hmm. It starts off forgetting how to speak, we start off with races. So below is a list of races available and the special talents is attributed to each. Note that these are just general overviews of the race and that many different variations exist through the galaxy. There are billions of Hellenes, for example, and not all of them look or behave identically. Each race is described in more detail on the following pages. We got the Amazorans, Gorgons, Hellenes, Cyclops. That can't be right.
No, it is.
It is Cyclops. I feel like I'm gonna get us hit by a YouTube slur bot.
No.
The Myrmidons, the Nephili, Nymphos, and Zentar. Then we get to attributes, where we've got 10 attributes in this game. Intelligence, self-explanatory, perception, will, charisma, strength, dexterity, constitution, speed, combat rating, and dynamism rating. Let's see. This attribute unlocks the inner power of the hero to manipulate the universe. Then we got a nice little chart with benchmarks.
Mm-hmm.
This is a quick example. You can get like an insect would be -8, a genius +3. Yeah. Or a polymath at a +5. The highest number I see on any of this goes up to a 14 with a speed for hair.
Yeah.
And then we get into the actual races shortly after.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the first one is the Amazorans, which, as you can see, are basically going to be the Amazons, but space. and they start with a +1 to will, a +2 to dexterity, a +3 to speed, and a -1 to dynamism, as well as their skill spread, as you can see. Their hit points are 20, and their attribute adjustment is none. As far as racial abilities, you have Alacrity. Amazorans are very quick thinkers, receiving a +1 to all initiative rolls. Combat Tenacity. Amazorans are tenacious in any endeavor they choose to pursue. In combat, this is doubly true. An Amazoran can call upon her sheer force of will to keep going. An Amazoran may stave off fear, the effects of fatigue, or even mortal wounds when in combat. When an Amazoran has taken a critical hit and must make a con save, she may add her will. When resisting fear, an Amazoran may double her will attribute, minimum of +2. Then Sharpshot, they get a +2 to any one ranged weapon skill. And Swift-footed, they can double their speed a number of times per adventure, equal to their con +1. And then we have the Gorgons, and I'll let you take their particular setup.
See, these are our snake people.
Mm-hmm.
See, for our racial attributes, we get +1 will, -1 charisma, 3 strength, 4 con, -2 dynamism. For skills, we've got 3 athletics, 7 etiquette Gorgon, 2 instinct intimidate. It's speak language Gorgon and any. And melee weapons +3, 25 hit points, no attribute adjustments.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got poison immunity, with 90% of the flora and fauna on Kato being poisonous. Gorgons are able to process most poisons without ill effect. They may add double their con, minimum of +2, to resist natural or organic poison. Gorgons do not gain this benefit from synthetic poisons. Gorgons have slightly poisonous blood and may coat their weapons with their blood to cause additional damage. For every hit point of blood they use, they may coat a melee weapon with enough poison to do +1 additional DR. A maximum of 5 hit points may be used in this manner, and the poison lasts for 2 hits. We got Paralytic Stare. Gorgons have perfected a method of hypnotizing their prey by staring into their eyes and making a dynamistic connection with their prey's brain. I am getting flashbacks to the Jungle Book. Gorgons may hypnotize an opponent by making eye contact and succeeding at a will roll with a DOD equal to their opponent's will. Opponents under the effect have a -2 penalty to their dice actions and speed for 3 rounds. A Gorgon may keep an opponent enthralled by spending an action staring at him each round. Those who wish to break free from the stare must make a will roll with a DOD equal to the Gorgon's will. And we got Coiling Tail. Gorgons have powerful tails that can be used to coil and grapple or slap an opponent. This attack counts as an extra action and can be used in addition to any other melee attacks with multi-action penalty. The tail does DR3 plus strength. And Bloodlust. When a Gorgon in battle is reduced to 50% of his hit points, he must make a will roll with a DOD -5. Failure indicates that he loses control and flies into a blood rage. The Gorgon attacks with abandon and doubles his strength bonus when calculating damage. While enraged, the Gorgon receives only half his defensive bonuses. Evade is reduced to half, round down. To escape the effects of Bloodlust, he must kill his foe or else remove himself from the presence of others. Once alone, he may make will rolls every combat round to shake the bloodlust. DOD -2. It's a good little collection of hampering your opponent-based abilities. Debuffing kind of stuff, and then Bloodlust.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to be doing a Gorgon, you gotta be expected to do the Gorgon things.
It does feel like a Gorgon.
Mm-hmm. So next we have the Hellenes, which I'd say are the closest to baseline human in other games. And because of that, the skill spread is a little bit different. Now, they do not get any positive or negative modifiers to their attributes. They do get a few language skills, but when it comes to attribute adjustment, you can choose one or more attribute. You can increase one or more attributes up to a total of +5. Each of 5 attributes by +1, or any one attribute by +5, etc. Optionally, you can reduce one attribute by 1 point for an additional point to add to one other attribute. So the whole pick an attribute thing that you've seen with humanoids in other games. When it comes to skills, it notes that they're a bit more flexible with their skills. Most will fall into one of 4 basic categories, and this will determine their skill spread. So there's a set of common skills that you're going to get. So etiquette, Hellen, +7. Speak language, Hellen, native. And speak language, any, basic, +3. The 4 types that you'd have to pick from, and which each grant a skill spread, is Athenonian, which I'm probably mispronouncing, Delphonian, Boeotian, and Spartan. And after that, we have racial abilities. First being leadership ability. Due to their confidence, Hellenes are natural leaders. Hellenes may receive a bonus equal to twice their charisma, minimum of +2, to all command and diplomacy rolls. And Tychon. Being favored of the gods, Hellenes are allowed in a small way to enforce their personal will upon the universe. They can force a reroll of any dice action that affects them directly a number of times per game session equal to their will, minimum once per game. The roll need not be made by the hero and may affect rolls made by the GM or other players when it pertains to the character. The reroll only affects the hero and may not manipulate fate for the benefit of others. Note, the ability to affect rolls only applies to the hero and never the group when a situation occurs that could affect more than one person. For example, the hero may affect the throwing roll of a grenade when an adversary makes an attack, but all others must use the original roll and gain no benefit. So, it is a way to cheat the universe, but it's limited.
Here's something I'm going to point out so far from all these races we've looked at so far. I don't think we've come across a racial ability yet that doesn't immediately feel like it's going to be impactful. And we've gotten a good variety of them so far, too.
Oh, yeah.
But next, we've got the Kyclopes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Kyclops.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that's how that's supposed to be pronounced.
Yes.
Now that I'm seeing this is a Cyclops type theme. The one-eyed Cyclops called alien region their home. Okay. So we've got their stats include a +4 to perception, 1 will, -1 charisma, 1 strength. For skills, we've got deduce motives 1, etiquette 7, instinct 2, investigate 5, lore of choice 2, speak language, Kyclopes, and any basic 3. Hit points 20. I'm thinking then 20 is going to be the effective average from base, since that's been 3 out of 4 from so far.
Pretty much.
And then we get racial abilities.
Mm-hmm.
Third eye. All mature Kyclops, those who have passed puberty and become adults, have a third eye, which revolves around their head in a crystal box or sphere. The eye itself comes from the forehead of the Kyclops, in whom the pineal gland is more developed than in other races. Carving it out the forehead opens it up to new perceptions, but only when the other eyes are permanently shut. The crystal box within which the third eye is kept is made from some nearly indestructible material mined from among the Etna asteroid field. It is kept in constant motion through a psychic bond with the Cyclops' mind, making it difficult to strike or destroy, and thus not any more of a liability than normal eyes. The third eye allows the Cyclops to see things beyond the understanding of other races of the known world, grasping concepts and aspects of a subject that normal beings would miss or never experience. Cyclops usually specialize in a single subject and pursue it to its natural conclusion. This had led to their becoming some of the finest craftsmen, shrewdest politicians, astute teachers, wily tacticians, and passionate lovers. Poor eyesight. With their normal eyes, assuming they have not gouged them out, Cyclopes have very poor eyesight and color blindness. Those Cyclopes who still have their old eyes can use them if they must, but these eyes are not accustomed to use, and thus result in a -6 penalty applied to all activities until the old eyes are rebound. Normal vision will eventually be regained over months. The Cyclops generally commit suicide or go mad if they are forced to see the universe in this mundane way after a lifetime of seeing its true nature. A Cyclops who somehow loses his third eye will often choose total blindness in lieu of normal vision. And we got aesthetic.
Yeah.
I'll go with that. Some Cyclops practice a philosophy called aesthetic, which means the science of how things are known via the senses. Aesthetic is a branch of philosophy called value theory or axiology, which is a study of sensory or sensory-emotional values, sometimes called judgments of sentiment or taste. The Cyclops have been known to become so engrossed in a subject that they have sometimes put themselves in harm's way to experience it. When so focused, they receive a bonus equal to triple their perception, on a minimum +3, on the subject they are focused on, but suffer -2 to all other subjects. The Cyclops must spend at least 5 minutes in contemplation of the subject and may retain the bonuses and penalty indefinitely or until he decides to focus on some other subject. Subjects can be anything from cooking the ultimate flatbread to reciting a long poem perfectly. For the sake of game mechanics, perfecting something requires the hero to make a skill roll appropriate to the task with a difficulty of -40. Hero points cannot be used. The hero may make 1 roll per week. If he fails, he may continue with his examination and contemplation of the subject, and the next week he receives a bonus of +1. This goes on until the hero makes the roll. When he finally achieves success, the hero receives 20 glory, minus the number of weeks it took to achieve the roll, minimum of 1 glory. For example, the Cyclops Aura, perception +5 is seeking. That is a very long example, I'll skip that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's a lot of text compared to the others without as much crunch given. But I see why they did that here. Let's see. We also have Cyclops may take one of the following abilities below. Find weakness. Some Cyclops have the ability to determine the flaw in an object or being and exploit it. The Cyclops must spend 1 round examining the person or object to be exploited and make a perception roll. Against inanimate objects, the hero must make a perception roll with the GM assigned DOD. If successful, the hero may add twice his perception as a bonus to his intelligence for the sake of disabling the machine, or twice his perception in bonus DR when attacking. combat, the hero may add twice his perception when finding a beast's weakness. To find the weakness of a living foe, the hero uses his perception versus a DOD equal to the opponent's CR or half his ability level, whichever is higher. If successful, add twice perception bonus to hit the target, or twice perception bonus DR. In social situations, the hero uses his perception versus a DOD -2, plus the opponent's charisma or intelligence, whichever is higher. If successful, Cyclops has a charisma bonus of twice his perception in social situations. You can also, instead of find weakness, pick Artificer. It can make an existing piece of technology better by studying its purpose. The task of enhancing the object takes 7 days minus the perception attribute, minimum of 1. After the allotted amount of time, Cyclops rolls his perception versus DOD equal to twice the item's current attribute level. If successful, add a number of points equal to his perception to the item's attributes or ability. If the roll's a failure, the item's function or ability is reduced by the same amount. On a critical failure, the item is broken and in some cases beyond repair, GM's option. Cyclops must also pay for materials using the item's modification equal to 50 DM per point enhanced. And finally, you can also select Empathy. Some Cyclops have the ability to recognize a being's emotional state and influence it. This can be done from a picture or piece of art. The Cyclops can determine a lot by a person's actions, words, or works or deeds. The Cyclops may add ripple their perception to any deduced motives, diplomacy, or deception roll. Influence rolls receive a bonus of twice the hero's perception, minimum 2. And correction, there is one more. This is the only character race sheet that has gone on for more than one page, and this is on the 3rd page. Some Cyclops have the esoteric ability to figure out the universe and all its secrets. They have used this discipline to crack codes, answer riddles, and realize truths long forgotten by the Hellenists and other beings. This ability is one of the most difficult, but in due course the most rewarding to the Cyclops. Ultimately, the Cyclops will learn the truth of the universe, and with that enlightenment ascend to what they call the next juncture. A Cyclops player may ask the GM one question pertaining to a situation in-game per point the perception attribute per adventure. So basically, they got so many shots to just ask the DMs, like, hey, yo, what's up with all this?
Yeah, this is going to allow them to ask what the answer to life, the universe, and everything is. But next we have the Myrmidians, who are insect warriors and are literal insect swarms. And as far as the racial attributes, they get a +4 to Dex, a +2 to Con, a +2 to Speed, and a -3 to Dynamism. Their racial abilities are Regeneration, where a Myrmidian heals at double the normal healing rate. If the queen is killed, the other members of the colony scatter mindlessly and eventually die, unless they are lucky enough to find other Myrmidians in the area they can join with, assuming they are welcomed. Shapeshift. So, a Myrmidian can alter the shape of its body to fit into areas that a normal being could not. By compressing or thinning an area, a Myrmidian can creep under doors and through cracks. This ability also allows a Myrmidian to add extra limbs, 1 additional for each con point, minimum of 1 extra. Each additional limb may be used but causes a multiple action penalty. Among other uses, this allows the Myrmidian to hold a 2-handed weapon and use a shield at the same time. In combat, the Myrmidian can alter its body to attack an opponent, slipping through openings in their armor to attack from within. In combat, the hero must first make a successful grappling attack. Once the Myrmidian has a firm grip on his opponent, it may spend additional actions covering and biting with its myriad small pincers. As long as the opponent is held in a grapple, the Myrmidian colony may attack in this way, doing their constitution in bonus damage. And Homunculus. Myrmidians can attempt to break off a part of their colony to do work remotely, creating a small Helen-shaped swarm and sending it on a task. The Homunculus starts with 0 skills and -1 in all attributes, and a minimum of 5 hit points must be spent to create it. For each 5 HP spent, the player can add 1 attribute point or 5 skill points, chosen from among these skills the Myrmidian knows. The player can opt to spend as many as all the hero's hit points except for 1 HP, which must be reserved for the queen herself. The player must make a will roll normal DOD -2 to create the body. If the roll fails, nothing happens. If successful, the body splits. The Homunculus leaves behind all armor and equipment the Myrmidian was carrying, and is now more flexible, able to slip through cracks, under doors, etc., but cohesive enough to perform physical tasks. As the Homunculus does not possess a queen, it can only be given a single specific task that may involve only 1 skill that the hero possesses. Ergo, open a door, retrieve an object, pull a lever, enter a code, etc. Creating a Homunculus strains the queen's ability to keep cohesion and control, and so the hero must make a will roll DOD -1 cumulative for each minute the Homunculus is away. If in a stressful situation, combat, the Myrmidian must roll his concentration skill every round. If a roll is failed while the Homunculus is abroad, the swarm loses cohesion and falls apart, scattering in all directions. Half of the Homunculus's HP will be recovered from returning colony members in minutes, equal to the time spent away from the queen. If the Homunculus is destroyed during his errand, the HP are lost and must be regenerated normally. And we have clustering. Several Myrmidians can act together, clustering to form larger structures such as bridges across rifts, armor, or even airtight crafts that can move through space or underwater, protecting those within. An adequate number of Myrmidians must be sacrificed to create the structure. Ergo, 2 colonies could form a raft, several hundred would be required to form a spacecraft, with the remaining queens huddling together in the remaining hive colony until such time as more living Myrmidians can be found to replace the lost colonies. Large asteroid-like clusters of this sort are believed to allow the Myrmidian to colonize other planets, within the outer shells of dead Myrmidians, protecting the living queens inside through the cold of space, the heat of re-entry, and the shock of crashing into a new planet. After touchdown, the shell breaks open and the living Myrmidians inside spill forth to colonize a new world. And thank you for the follow, Tyron Loki. I hope you enjoy the show. And
so if you ever feel like playing Spiders Man...
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. This is Spiders Man. Summoning the spiders. And finally, Omnivision. Because hundreds of thousands of tiny insects make up the body of one Myrmidian, they may see in all directions as long as it is unobstructed by clothing. Seeing in all directions does not distract the Myrmidian, and it may function and perceive normally. The idea of being in a ship made of these things is interesting and also terrifying.
Oh, I know what I'm playing if I ever pick up and join in one of these games.
What? So you can basically be a legally distinct Spiders Man?
Honestly, I know nothing about that character other than it's a swarm of spiders in a suit. I just like the idea of playing something this fucking creepy.
It's like somebody looked at 3 kobolds in a trench coat and said, "Hold my beer."
We can get more in that trench coat.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, next up we have the Nephili, which are kind of the angelic-like beings of the setting.
Yep. I'll let you take that.
Getting their racial attributes, we've got 2 intelligence, 1 perception and will, -1 to strength, +2 to din. Why did I already forget what that was short for? Let's see, they've got athletic, dynamism, yes. Base hit points 20. Let's see, for their racial abilities, we have flight. They are able to use natural air currents of their surroundings for limited flight. They move at a fly of speed +10. Excuse me. or up to the speed of the wind in the area, provided they are flying in the direction of the wind. They may move directly into the wind by tacking, but to do so at their normal speed. I don't know if we've come across a system that's taken in wind for account for determining flight speed.
Not in
I
a
like
while.
this. See intangibility. The Nephilim can change their density for a period of time, becoming wraith-like. The change takes one full round to complete, and while in this state, they cannot harm or be harmed physically. Although dynamism and sound attacks work normally. Items worn or carried by the Nephilim fall from their body and are not brought into the intangible state, leaving the Nephilim naked. They may stay in the state for rounds equal to triple their will, minimum 3. This feat may be done a number of times a day equal to their con. Returning to normal happens instantly at the end of the round and requires no action. So my comment about being the angelic race of the setting isn't necessarily wrong, but they're somewhat gaseous in nature.
Do you remember Judi Dench's character in the Chronicles of Riddick? It's not far removed from that.
We get sound manipulation. A Nephilim can hear a whisper carried on the wind or send a message hundreds of miles on a breath of air. Nephilim may make sound-based perception checks with double perception. Nephilim may send a sound-based message over the air directly to their target's ear with a whisper at a range of 100 meters per rating of will, minimum of 100 meters. And surviving in a vacuum. A Nephilim may survive in vacuum by cannibalizing their bodies. A Nephilim may survive for one round per hit point spent. A hero may do this for half his hit points before needing to make a normal con roll for resisting the effects of a vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds handy in a space setting.
Yep. Then we have the Nymphas, which are exactly what they sound like. And as far as what they're getting, they have -1 to will, +4 to charisma, -1 to strength, +1 to dex, +2 to speed, and that's their racial modifiers. Their hit points are 18. So that's breaking from the rule of 20 that we've seen. And as far as racial abilities, they have environmental familiarity. A Nymphas can travel through her chosen environment with little trouble. An Ored can travel through mountains and woods at double the normal movement, while Naiads can travel at a like pace through waters or slip space. Naiads may survive under the high pressure and chilling cold of the ocean depths. Oreads can eat through photosynthesis like plants, and are never in need of food if they can root themselves and leach nutrients from the earth and bask in the sunlight. Both types of Nymphas gain a bonus to hiding in their respective environment equal to twice their perception, minimum of +2. Environment deprivation. When a Nymphas spends more than 4 weeks outside of her normal environment, forest, river, sea, Arctic region, etc., she loses a portion of her connection to the world. For each week beyond the 4th, a Nymphas must make a will roll DOD -0, or she loses 1 point from con. Each week, the penalty increases by -1. If any of her con falls to -5, she immediately falls into a coma, staying that way until brought back into her environment, but losing no further attribute points. Healing occurs at a rate of 1 point per con per day spent in her native environment. And manipulation. Both types of Nymphas possess a special ability to manipulate others using their pheromones. When a Nymphas touches his flesh to another being, he can secrete a chemical that will make the target more pliable to his will. Gorgons are resistant to this, having had many decades to build up a racial resistance, but other races are susceptible, especially the Myrmidians and Zintar. A Nymphas may add double his charisma attribute for a number of social influence rolls equal to 4 plus his con attribute. And finally, Symposia. Many Nymphas practice Symposia for 1 week out of every 3 months, an event to which all are welcome, including other races. The symposia is a large party held in sacred gathering places, usually in the woods or a sacred underwater grotto, where wine and food is available in mass quantities. Depending on the occasion, the symposia could also include games, songs, flute girls, slaves performing various acts, and hired entertainment. A symposium is overseen by a symposiarch, who decides how strong or diluted the wine for the evening will be, depending on whether serious discussions or merely sensual indulgences are planned. Certain formalities are observed, most important among which are libations served by nude nymphas. The nymphas' ability to manipulate others is doubled during this period of time in regards to all attending the symposia. And speaking of Zentaur, that's the next one we have, which
This thing is like a Lovecraftian centaur. This image, a highly armored Lovecraftian centaur.
You're saying Lovecraftian because of the tentacles.
Yes. It's not actually horrifying like you would expect a Lovecraftian monster to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it gets the point across.
Yeah, I'd say so.
So these attributes, we've got +3 intelligence, 1 perception, 2 will, -1 strength, 1 dexterity, -1 speed, -1 dynamism.
Mm-hmm.
Aquatic movement. I was not expecting aquatic movement to be the first horse-related ability. Let's see, the Zentaur can breathe on land and in water with very little effort, but their bodies are made for the vast ocean floor and their water-covered world. Outside of this environment, Zentaur have difficulty moving under their own power. While on dry ground, outside of their carapace, Zentaur move by dragging their bodies along the ground at a speed -1. In an aquatic environment, Zentaur move easily by crawling along the sea floor or swim by expelling a jet of water from their contractile mantle, aiming it via a muscular siphon. This gives them a movement speed +5. In slip space, a Zentaur may move freely while outside of its carapace, maneuvering as if they were swimming in water. I'm assuming now that centaur-like body we saw is actually just armor for whatever that weird creature actually is. I'm going to read the physical description on this real quick because it's clear I wasn't exactly sure of what this thing is.
Mm-hmm.
So in their natural form, Zentaur are very powerfully built amphibious cephalopods, standing only half a meter tall. Their head appears roughly humanoid, but their faces have protective cartilage for lips, although some have this surgically altered. With 2 air slits where their nose would normally sit, perhaps most dramatically, where a true humanoid would have legs, they have between 4 and 10 long tentacle spinal columns that emerge from their lower torso. Okay, yeah, so this not remotely like a Lovecraftian centaur.
Kelpie.
It's a weird, creepy fish thing in a suit of armor.
It's a Kelpie. Okay,
Yeah.
maybe not, but close enough.
But alright, to camouflage. Zentaur have specialized skin cells containing yellow, orange, red, brown, and black pigments and white reflective cells. These allow them to change their apparent color, opacity, and reflectiveness of their skin. Zentaur receive a bonus equal to twice their con of any type of hide skill check when out of their carapace and hiding. The color changing ability can also be used to communicate with or warn other Zentaur without the use of verbal speech. This form of color speech can be done at a range of 20 meters and cannot be interpreted by any non-Zentaur due to the subtle nature of the color shifting. We got enhanced sense of sight and touch. The Zentaur have incredibly acute vision and are able to see in different spectra of light. Because of the habitat the Zentaur are from, they can easily see in absolute darkness. Also, because of their acute vision, Zentaur may reduce the range of any sight-based penalties by 10 meters. Their skin is very sensitive, allowing them to read the print off of a piece of paper by touch or feel, and the approach of someone walking by the miniature vibrations on the floor. If a Zentaur's tentacles are in physical contact with the ground outside the carapace, he may sense his surroundings using this ability, gaining a bonus equal to twice his perception to tactile sensory-based perception checks. Technophile. The Zentaur are highly advanced in the fields of electronics. I want to say cybernetics, but they're spelling it with a K, so it's kybernetics.
Mm-hmm.
In machine interfacing. Because of this, Zentaur receives a +2 bonus to any tech-related skill checks. Vehicle interface. Zentaur are adept at interfacing with machines and piloting them. They do this through their extremely advanced kybernetics, heightened sense of touch, and mechanical acumen. Zentaur receive a bonus of +2 when piloting or driving a vehicle that is outfitted with a Zentaur interface pod. And the carapaces. Because of how the Zentaur are built, they have a very difficult time interacting in non-aquatic environments. To overcome this, they have built robotic carapaces that house their bodies and allow them to interact with other races. The carapaces come in a variety of shapes and sizes and fulfill a variety of tasks. Most Zentaur have 2 or 3 for different occasions and duty. When in the carapace, the machine reacts with all of the physical attributes of the user except for its strength, movement, and resistance to damage. Almost all of them provide some protection for the Zentaur inside. It takes a Zentaur 30 seconds, 5 combat rounds, to properly suit up and activate a carapace and an equal amount of time to leave. Emergency ejections are possible, but doing so ruins the seating mechanism due to the explosive discharges that propel the Zentaur out. Below is an example of the most common types of carapace. For the standard, 25 HP, armor 4, HRP 8, strength index is as those of the user.
So those are the races, and we've got a pretty good variety. And then the Zentaur just sneak up on you.
Yeah. Look, I'm not going to say it's out of nowhere. We have the fucking spider colony.
Mm-hmm.
But it is one you kind of need to read the description because it's not immediately obvious.
Yeah.
Because it shows to show them in the carapace rather than just the cephalopod.
It is one way to get centaurs in space.
I feel like this is a cheating way to do it.
Is it?
But I'll take it. Yes. But I'm alright with cheating sometimes, so we're good.
Every GM cheats. But then we have life paths. And those of you who are familiar with the way life paths may work in other games, you're going to find yourself in somewhat familiar territory. And it's going to be a way that can be used to help randomly generate backgrounds. It is largely being done through D20s. It is worth noting that the first part, month of birth, the Helen calendar uses 12 months with 36 days each, and is based on the Athenoi year. So while each system, and in fact each planet, will have its own calendar, all Helens use the Athonian calendar. I suppose it's kind of like how UTC or GMT is kind of used as the international time code for business, even if you might be in your own particular time zone. You know, this is why you see, like for us, or for me at least, it's GMT -6. And of course, UTC is short for Universal Time Code, so you get the idea. So you'd first roll D20 to determine which season, and then roll to determine the month, as well as any notes and an associated god if need be. There is a bit of a typo where it wants you to roll 11 to 2 if you roll really high. and it's divided between the spring months of Hell, the summer months of Hell, the autumn months of Las, and the winter months of Las. After that, you'd roll for your planet of birth, which is your choice of planet of birth is largely based on which race you ended up picking. After that, you have a d20 roll about whether the state of your parents' social situation, if they're alive, your family status. Then after that is siblings and your relationship with the siblings. This is why I considered using Hellas for one of the Life Path Generation episodes of Geek Watch, just to see how long it takes before Zan ends up becoming a harem protagonist again. I know some of you who are new might be saying that sounds a bit cruel, but it's happened every single time, without fail. So is it really cruelty if it ends up being right? But after that is the special gift, which is usually some sort of gift you get from your parentage. And these are all exceptional quality items. Some of them have crunch, a good chunk of them not necessarily. After that is divine heritage, which is basically how divine your parentage was, and that determines the starting amount of glory. We'll get to glory later. After that, you'd roll for your divine mark, which does have a mechanical effect, and it can range from getting +1 CR from Born Warrior to +1 Charisma for Beloved by All. It is worth noting for some of the attribute increases, there is an asterisk saying attribute increase may take the character beyond the racial maximum. So if you get over +5 on that kind of thing, that's fine. After that is childhood encounter, and the type of encounters are encountered someone special, witness to an event, family intrigue, and perilous adventure. Then after that, you end up choosing a god, the one that you're favored by as your divine patron. This is something that you choose as the player. You could randomize it, but one of the key things is that it doesn't have to be the same as your parentage. And of course, we have each of the 12 major gods and the domains that they have. After that is destiny, and I do appreciate that there's a few examples given here. The only thing I'd say is maybe a further sidebar in terms of what makes a good example or a bad example of a destiny. I know that might seem a bit obvious, but that's one of the things you can't really assume. And after that is fate, which we're dealing with Greek-inspired science fantasy, so being doomed to a certain fate is gonna be inevitable. I'm fully aware of the punishments there.
Now, I do like it gives you the options, like, do you want the player to know that what their fate is supposed to be, or is that something to keep secret from them?
Mm-hmm.
By the nature of just being the whole Greek-inspired, I think I'd prefer to keep it secret. Just because I don't want them actively just avoid, like, oh, killed by blood relative.
Keep it secret from the other players, keep it secret from the GM, or both?
From the players.
I could see that. The GM should at least know so that they can integrate that fate.
Yeah, the GM should definitely know. But I'm saying if I were the GM, I'm like, I don't know if I want them to know they're going to be allegedly killed by poison.
Mhm.
Because now they're just going to be watching for the poison everywhere.
Yeah, and the last thing you want is somebody doing detection checks every 5 feet.
Yeah.
We get enough of that shit in other games. But overall, I'd say the racial setup that we have is certainly interesting. The character creation that we have so far is definitely on point, and we're not even fully done with character creation.
Now, obviously, we don't know how the mechanics work in this game quite yet.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say if all of these numbers are meaningful, but what I can say is there is a very good variety here.
Yeah.
The races are all interesting, and assuming the mechanics don't let us down, which I don't see why they would so far, everything we've gone over feels like it's going to be impactful at least a little bit. So I'm liking what we're seeing so far.
Yeah.
I wish I thought to keep a pronunciation guide up on hand, like a little side window, because this does have a pronunciation guide.
Yeah, and I hadn't. I knew I was going to screw it up. Just because I can barely do English at the best of times. but we're going to wrap it up there. Next time we do this, we are going to be diving into professions and then some. But so far, so good. And we'll probably, once we finish with the latter end of character creation, we'll come back to see how we're feeling about it. But with that said, as always, a sincere thanks to everyone who took the time out of their schedule to come all the way to my temple and enjoy the madness that happens around here. And anytime you see fit to return, the door is always open. As I often say around here, drinking is not mandatory, but it is encouraged. But until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra. I am your gaming monk. Stay fucking frosty, everybody.
Hãy subscribe cho kênh Ghiền Mì Gõ để không bỏ lỡ